Um, Welcome everybody to this short webinar on remote resilience. It's great to be here. Always enjoy we've working with Future Faces. I know in the past, Curium, we've run some sessions for you. So today we've got about 40 minutes. There will be time for questions at the end, but I will be asking you to interact during the session as well. So please feel free to use the chat box. Love to know what you're thinking. We've also got a poll for you to do as well. So please do get involved. So what we're going to cover in this webinar. So on the agenda, it's just we're going to be talking about resilience and what does it mean for you right now. So this is your opportunity, perhaps just to take half an hour or so to reflect on how things are for you right now, but also how to take care of yourself during this strange time. I don't think we're really getting used to it just yet, but just how to stay resilient, but give you some strategies for building your personal resilience and maintaining that. And the final thing is, how do we lead and stay connected during these difficult times, or these remote times? So just a little bit on how to stay connected with your teams. So I'm just going to ask you to think about what resilience is for a moment. Our definition of resilience is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And so it's, I don't think any of us were prepared for what's going on right now. But I would like you to perhaps just think for a few moments and consider perhaps what this means to you and your team right now. I'd really be interested if anyone's got any thoughts or comments on that, just to pop them in the chat box. Just make a note for yourself, just reflect for a second or two over, what does this mean to you right now? Are any thoughts, maybe what it means to you or your team right now? Adapting, yes, thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, it's recognizing our resilience can fluctuate from hour to hour. I think that's a really interesting point, Lisa. Thank you. Yeah, it's not constant, is it? Sometimes we're having good times and not so good. Working together, supporting one another. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Stephanie. Any last thoughts or comments? Right, my team is struggling with creating their own accountability. Yeah, thanks, Dan. That's really interesting. I mean, it's hard, isn't it, when we're working remotely to maintain those accountabilities. Perhaps we can talk a little bit about that later. Thinking more creatively, absolutely. I think we've all been given this opportunity, Helen, to just think a little bit outside the box about how we can do things differently. It's a really good point, Lisa, as well, about different tolerance levels and challenges. So we'll talk about that in a moment as well, and just what we need. So thank you for your comments. We've come up with a very simple model around how we lead people through change, and Curium are change, consultants. That's what we do. But certainly from a leader's perspective, or helping our teams go through change, it can be really challenging. At the best of times, it can be challenging. So we've come up with this simple model called the me, we, you model. Me is about taking care of yourself. What is it your personal core? What is it about you? What helps you stay resilient? The second is the we. This is all about how do we stay the team working, keep the team working together to retain that collaboration when we're all working remotely. And finally, how do we demonstrate inclusive leadership in terms of how do you help individuals within the team who might be wanting different things? Like you said there, Lisa, we have different tolerance levels, and people have different challenges when it comes to their own personal resilience. So let's just start with looking at the me. And so really what we talk about, if you only focus on team collaboration and the individuals, then you'll get burnout because you're not taking care of yourself. And the thing that we always say is taking care of yourself first is not a selfish act. As a leader, as a team member, and also thinking about yourself. Maybe you're at home at the moment, you're a mother, you're a father, you are taking care of, the family as well. You're having to look after maybe some parents, So it's all about not just within work, it's taking care of that wider group of people who you are connected to. But we need to take care of ourselves, because if we can't and we don't, then we're not in a fit state to be able to take care of others or to manage others as well. So we're just going to spend the first moment thinking about ourselves and being a bit selfish. And I'm just going to launch a quick poll, and I'm going to ask you to just take a vote now, and think about for yourself, what do you need to stay resilient when times are tough? So right now, what is it that you are needing personally? And you might want to say, I need all four, but I'm afraid there isn't a button for that. I just want you to select what is probably most important to you right now. So I'm just going to launch the survey, and when you're ready, hopefully you can all see that. I would like you to vote and just submit your answers. Now, oops. Excuse me, Lauren, can you see the survey results coming through? I can't see them. Okay, when you're ready, would you mind presenting those for me? Ah, that's it, thank you. They're coming through. Brilliant, thank you very much. So, what have we got here? So this is really interesting. I don't know whether any of you have followers on LinkedIn at all, but and Twitter, we've been running this resilience survey, and it was quite interesting when probably going back 2 weeks ago when we ran this survey. The main thing people wanted was to stay connected with others, and what we are noticing in this last week, and towards the back end of last week, is that it has shifted. And the picture that we're seeing is very much what we're seeing here, is that now there's a lot of shift towards wanting structure, wanting clarity, wanting a plan, more about that, the task part of it, getting on with it, want some action. Staying connected is still important to a lot of people, but it seems to be now that it is more a case of, okay, what's next? What do we need to do? And to stay resilient, I now need that clarity and that structure. So thank you for doing that. That's really interesting. We'll put your votes in with our survey. Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is just start to think about your own personal resilience and how to build it. And I've got a video that I would like to share. Now, what I would say to you about this video is that it does start quite loud. So if you've got headphones in or you've got your microphone up, you might just want to turn it down a touch. But I'm just going to play this video and then we'll get a little bit of feedback from you. Okay. Okay. So, I don't know whether anyone's seen that video before, but it's a video that we often play at the beginning of our resilience training or when we're looking at reducing stress. And you've probably noticed that it was the same video played twice, once with rather chaotic sounds and the second one with much calmer sounds. And really what it's demonstrating is it's thinking about how we're actually feeling right now. And quite often we see the world, as it says here, through how we feel. And when we're feeling probably out of balance or out of sorts, or things are a little bit chaotic, it can cause real stress problems for us. And so just think for yourself, where are you right now, in terms of how are you feeling? Are you more like the first part of the video or the second part of the video? And just thinking about what stress can do to us and our performance. And it's interesting when you're talking here about accountability and struggling with creating their own accountability. And just is it because they are feeling a bit stressed, they don't know, they need that clarity? It's important that, do they know where they are right now? So it's helping people to perhaps understand what they need from you in terms of to get that clarity. Because when we're under stress, I don't know whether you've seen this stress curve before, but what happens when we get under stress is that there's a certain amount of stress which is good for us. It's like if you start a new project, or maybe some people working from home for a little while, they found that's quite a challenge, but maybe quite enjoying it. But there does come a point where stress can become a problem. So, and it's recognizing that when you've got to that point where, unless you start to build your resilience and start to take care of yourself, if people keep piling more things on you or you take on more stress, then you'll get to that sort of breakdown stage. So there's a perception change of where actually we're feeling good, we're performing well, but now we need to start thinking about, getting some resilience and building that. And we use the analogy of this stress cup. And if you think about this image here, if you take each line of that cup as being some part of stress, and it all starts to build up. And this could be a small thing. It could be, your laptop's not working properly. It could be that if you're trying to teach your kids school at the moment, they're not, doing what they should be doing, or just little things start to build up. You might be worried about, somebody else in the family. And as you start to build up, there's a danger that it can start to overflow. So probably just thinking about your own stress levels right now and where you are in terms of how that looks for you. So I just perhaps would like to, get you to think about that. Perhaps just write down on a scale of 1 to 10, just how full your stress cup is right now, and just how, that might be showing up for yourself. And just thinking about, our behaviours under stress. So when you think about what happens with you under stress, this is where it becomes really important if you are leading and helping others through change. So if anyone would like to share, I know this is a bit of maybe a bit of a reveal, but what do others see in you when you get under stress? I'd be interested to hear from you, perhaps what people see. I know for me, I like to get down to the detail sometimes if I get a bit under stress, or yeah, I can sometimes become a little bit withdrawn. I know people behave in different ways, so just love to hear what you've got to say on that. Head down and get on with it, not delegating effectively. Thank you. Become very quiet. Yeah. My levels of empathy reduce. Yes. A smile on the outside still, but generally quieter than usual. Thank you. Yeah, really important to recognize this. Loss of confidence and self-belief. Thank you for sharing that one. Generally hide it quite well. Yeah. Tend to then be impatient. Yes, I get that, Lisa. We try and hide these things. Withdraw and disappear into the problem, but not really solving it. Bit of self-pity. Yeah. Sometimes a bit frantic. Thank you. Can find it hard to step back and prioritize. Yeah, just getting that clarity. The thing is, when we get under stress, what happens is, we've got our three different brains working together. And, we have our reptilian brain, which is our fight or flight response. This keeps us alive, if you like. It helps to regulate our heartbeat. We also then have our emotional brain, which is where we store the amygdala. And the amygdala is really that emotional brain. That's what kicks off when, things aren't going too well or we are under stress. And then the fleshy part of the brain, this is the neocortex. And this is where we have our logic and rationale. And the thing is, when we get under stress, our emotional brain can sometimes take over. And it's, I don't know whether anyone's ever read the chimp paradox, but that actually does, say, it's a bit like, if you can imagine, it's your chimp getting out of its cage and it starts to kick off, and it's very hard to think straight, because when our emotional brain, our emotions are high, it takes over, and our logical and rational brain isn't able to function in the same way. Very simplistic term, but this is really what's going on. And so it's really just being able to take a bit of time just to choose a different response, or to take a bit of time to think of a better emotion that's going to serve you better. And we'll talk about that in a moment, about some little techniques that you can do. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yes, I see here someone said, thanks to hobbies, I've trained myself to take a step back, take a deep breath, and then refocus. Absolutely. Nothing like taking a deep breath. We call also the 6-second stop. Just stop for 6 seconds and just give your brain time to reconnect. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the you. And this is where we're focusing on the individual people within your team, and perhaps some of the impact that we might have on them as individuals. So there's a model I want to, it doesn't actually build on this here, but so it looks a bit messy, sorry, the animations aren't working properly. But this is our E plus R equals O. Now, what this talks about here, what this shows, is that when an event happens and we get a bit stressed, and maybe we have a response like we're seeing here, is that we have an outcome to that response. So, for example, it might be that something happens where you can't find a file or something like that. You feel like somebody hasn't filed it properly, or you've not got a response that you want. So then you respond in a way that maybe someone talked about being less tolerant, and the outcome is you might say something to somebody that you prefer you hadn't have said. And so these things happen all the time, or we might, our outcome might be that we avoid doing something, or our outcome might be that we put a bit more pressure on other people. So there's usually an outcome. So event, there's the response to an event, and then there's the outcome. Now, what we talk about here is, if you want to change that outcome, then all you need to do is think about, okay, take a step back. When this event happens, what response do I need to give in order to get the outcome that I want? And because we can actually choose our response, it just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of doing. But there's Stephen Covey, in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about this thing called respondability, and our ability to respond in any way we choose. And sometimes we just need to take that responsibility to choose our response. Because the thing is, our response becomes somebody else's event. And so if we respond in a way that then becomes somebody else's event, that will then trigger off their response and then the outcome. And so you get this circle of behavior that really is not really what I would call resourceful. So we have what we call unresourceful behaviors. And so just think sometimes about what would be a better outcome for you, and how do you need to respond differently, so that we're not giving somebody else a negative event. But also, in the same time, what we're doing, we need to protect ourselves against other people who we know can push our triggers. And so it's thinking about what triggers you, what sets you off, and causes probably an emotional response. One of the techniques you can use, and this works really well, and this is my kind of go-to technique to help me just to get focused again, is this circle of control. And this is a Stephen Covey model. Now, the way this works, as some of you may have seen this, may have not, is that if you just jot down a couple of things that are on your mind right now. So if you just think to yourself, what have you got on your mind right now that may be causing you a little bit of stress, or things that you need to do? You might have some things on your action list, or there may be things that are causing you stress that are going on right now for you, things that keep you awake at night. So maybe just think of a couple of things, write them down, jot them down. And what I'm going to do now is just think about where these fit, and I want to explain these three circles for you. So the circle of control is anything that is within your control now. So what can you do right now that will help so those things that you've got on your list, or things that that are troubling you, what is within your control? Now, if it's not in your control but in your influence, so then think about where that might be. So you could perhaps put things in that circle where they are not directly in your control but actually within your influence. And then the final thing is, if they're not in your control or influence, then you put them in your circle of concern. And the idea behind this is that you can then expand your circle of concern. Sorry, you can expand your circle of control and influence and squeeze your circle of concern. So, for example, if you think it might be, so within your control, what's going on right now is you can control, perhaps your diary today, what you work on or what you don't work on. So, what are those things that you can actually control? So, put those at the top of your list, because that will give you a bit more resilience, because if you can work on things you control, it stops things from becoming overwhelming. What can you influence? There might be something that you don't have direct control over, but you could influence. It might be somebody else. You could ask somebody else to do something for you. They could help you with something. It might be something at home that you can influence. Now, if there are other things that are in your circle of concern, so for example, I think about, with the situation right now, what is in my circle of concern is maybe what the government decide to do tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to decide. I don't think they even know. But for me, that's in my circle of concern, and I don't think about it. I don't think about trying to solve it or work through it. It just really helps me to only focus on what I can control. So what I would say to you is, when things are starting to get a bit overwhelming, when you feel like you're losing that control, just try this exercise and then change, what you can't accept, and accept what you can't change. And it's just a really good way of helping to get some more clarity around what are the key things that you can do right now that are going to make the biggest difference. And then one of the little technique that I use is just a little bit of self-coaching. And so before, I'm going to share a couple of questions with you in a moment, but before I do that, I'm just going to ask you to perhaps just sit in your chair, but just get yourself comfortable in your chair. And what I'd like you to do is, just start to feel your feet on the floor, and just start to get in a little bit more of a relaxed state, and just start to do some what I'll call gentle breathing. And just start to breathe in for 3 seconds, and then just out again for 3 seconds. And then a little bit more breathing, just breathe in, just breathe out. And just continue to do that for a few moments, and just try and calm your brain a little bit. Just try and reduce some of the anxieties or that you might be feeling right now, but just try and do a little bit of gentle breathing. Now what I'd like you to do is just to come back, if you like, just feeling a little bit calmer. There's nothing like a little bit of gentle breathing to just calm you down, even if you only do it for 30 seconds. But I want you to ask yourselves these questions. And the first question is how am I responding to the situation right now? And actually, how am I feeling? And when I'm talking about feeling, what are your emotions? And if you say you're worried, then, for example, or you might say I'm feeling stressed, I just want you to perhaps delve a little bit deeper into that and just think about how is that manifesting itself. You're feeling maybe just a little bit anxious, so you're feeling a little bit out of control. But what is it that is worrying you or concerning you right now? Now, if you think about the emotional response that you've got, what might be a better response? So we talk about that E plus R equals O. So what might be a better response? And if you could choose that response, what difference would it make? And then finally, what is the one thing that you could do right now that will make a positive shift in your situation? So I'm just going to ask you to think about those questions. We will share these questions with you later as well, but perhaps just write something down for yourself. Okay. Some of you might want to spend some more time on this later. But if anyone's got anything to share, if those questions have made any difference or perhaps changed your emotion in any way or made you think differently or feel differently, then I'd be interested to hear. Feels positive to step back. Yeah, thank you. Not sure. No. No. And this is the thing with this exercise. I find that if I'm just feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a bit stressed, I'll even just go and have a walk and just take these questions with me, almost go, or just go and put some music on, just change your environment. Yeah, it makes you feel more in control. Thank you, Anna. Having space to think. Yeah. Yeah, rather than ignoring them and blocking them out. I think this is it. Quite often when we're in a stress situation or we've got people around us and we don't get that at the moment, we're all on top of each other. If you can just get a bit of time out, go and sit in the garden, just ask yourself these questions or go for a walk somewhere, it makes a huge amount of difference. But we'll share these questions again with you so you can try this exercise. But a bit of self-coaching, it works wonders, absolutely works wonders. Or even maybe you could buddy up with somebody and just ask these questions of each other, to get someone else to coach you as well. We do that in our team just to help each other. Right, okay. So thank you for sharing that. A lot of your anxieties are in the outer circle. And this is the problem when we have lots of things going on in our life that we feel we can't control. It can become really overwhelming. I think it's just something perhaps after this session, just to take that little bit of time and get yourself, just ask yourself these questions. If anyone wants to talk to me after this, by the way, I'm sure we can get my details shared and be more than happy to help anybody. Thank you. Just one final thing here about being mindful of my emotions rather than dwelling on them. Yeah, creating a positive mindset shift, I think, is really important. Yeah. What can I learn from this situation? We have a model that we use called Win, Learn, Change. So, and again, when we're feeling like we need some positivity or just need a bit of a reframe on something, we just go, what's been my win today? What have I, what was the one thing that I've achieved? What have I learned today? About a situation or about myself, about somebody else. What have I learned? What am I going to change? What's the one thing I'm going to do differently that's going to make a big difference tomorrow? So that win, learn, change is a really good technique as well to use, just to reflect at the end of the day. So the final thing I just want to move on to is the we. So the we is all about maintaining this collaboration. If you actually lead a team of people, how you're going to stay, collaborative throughout this session and stay connected. So what are you going to do to keep your team connected? Or more importantly, I'd love to hear what you're doing. Let's share some ideas. So how are we all staying connected during this time? And at Curium, we're having our team meetings online now. I think we're all using things like this, Click Meeting, Zoom. I think I've never used so many different platforms. Teams is great. But it's been, I think, really, everyone is shifting in the way they're doing and thinking about things. It's been quite good fun, actually, as well, we've been trying to set each other tasks and challenges. So what are you doing? Weekly virtual team games and challenges. That's it. Great. Yeah, Catherine, I think actually, I'd love to hear of any games or challenges you're doing. Might be able to share some. Morning video calls. Yeah, check-ins. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, that's lovely. And I think just having a chat sometimes, it's not work related, is lovely. Yeah, check in. We have a checkout as well, just to make sure everyone's okay. Showing funny videos. Yeah, been so many of those, and they've been great. I think they've just kept us all going, haven't they? Some really good ones. So any more? I think we've just got a couple of people typing. Guess the work desk. We're also building a lockdown Spotify play. Oh, fantastic. Love that idea. Using Zoom video conferencing. Yeah, interesting facts to talk about. Great. And I think, anything we can do just to keep each other going. Some great ideas. Thank you for sharing those. Just a couple of things that we're doing to keep connected. You see this, it's a bit small, but just a couple of tips here. Keeping to a routine, like you say, your virtual check-ins, virtual checkouts. Put some structure. It's interesting there where we talk about what people are looking for now, and they are looking for clarity. They're looking for plan, looking for routine, and looking for structure. So anything you can do that gives people some structure, and just being there. I think just letting people know that you are there and having that time to just talk and share and reflect. Virtual coffee chats we've talked about here as well. Yeah, wish him a great day. Hey, have a great day. But that's only too American, of course. But yeah, just try and have some positivity about what we could do that's going to be great today. Yeah, recording things so people can't make videos or miss out on a meeting. Just make sure that we record things so we can share those. And then keeping people first. I think this whole thing around the sense of community, this was so important right at the beginning, that people weren't feeling isolated and on their own. So I think, making sure that everyone's okay. And also, if you're leading a team of people, just check in with them individually and see what they actually need, because it might not be what you need right now, and it might not be what you think they need. So it's good just to check in and say, how's it going for you guys? Do you need anything differently? But perhaps just individual check-ins. And then, like you've talked here before, about some fun activities which you seem to be doing. Great, good. So thanks for sharing those ideas. I'm conscious of time, and so what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite Mark back as well, and perhaps just open the chat up for questions. If anyone's got any questions about today, this little session, or any questions from Mark in particular about Future Faces, please let us have them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Anne. Whilst the guys have a chance to kind of type any questions if they've got any, I'll jump in and ask one. I just wondered, one of the biggest challenges, certainly for myself, but also my other half, is the the things that stress us usually kind of day to day with work tend to be a specific problem, whereas the big challenge, certainly for me, is it's that unknown of how many weeks the current situation might be going on for, or when am I going to go back to work? And it feels like a very unmanageable problem. I didn't know if you had any advice for that or any thoughts.
You know, my only thought on that really is it goes back to my circle of concern and circle of control, because it's one of those massive questions, isn't it? And I don't think anybody really knows. So it's one of those things that I pop in my circle of concern, and I just think, right, okay, I've got to take this day to day right now. And so what is in my control today? Because I can't really worry about next week or the week after. The only thing that you can do is to perhaps have some contingency plans in. So have almost like we're talking now about how do we reset? So, thinking ahead to the future, we don't know when that's going to be, but let's say if by the end of this month we're in the they're releasing some of the quarantine restrictions, and what do we need to reset and get ready for what is going to be next, whatever that norm might be. So I could say, that is my only advice, is to start thinking a little bit about the future and what you can do maybe in the future when it does get back to normal, whenever that might be, is my only thought. But when you feel it getting overwhelmed, I would is focusing on what you can control and putting some plans together for what you're going to do to reset, or maybe thinking about your own particular knowledge and skills. Are there certain things that you need to learn right now? How can we turn this time we've got or this situation into a positive learning experience? Like I've learned so much around this sort of thing, webinars. I used to do it, but I've
Yeah.
really researched it. So I think that's what I would say, Mark, if that's helpful.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
I think Jackie's just written a
yeah.
question for us.
um, Top to maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Yeah. Okay, so I would say is that every morning is to write your list, and in that list is to build in a proper structure around your break times, because it's too easy if it's anything like we found ourselves jumping from one video call to the next, and it's almost like to be really strict on your time. Emma, who works with us, she's just done a great little video on that. Actually, it's on our LinkedIn. So if anyone goes on to Curium LinkedIn, she's just done it. She's really, really organised. She's the most organised person in our office, and we asked her to do this video. So have a little watch of that, because that really just gives you a plan. And build in your exercise, build in your coffee breaks, build in your virtual coffee breaks, and do that every morning. Is my advice on that one. Hope that helps. Um, Anything else? Switching off. So working from home full time, finding it increasingly difficult. Separation from work and home. Yeah, I think it is difficult. And again, the only thing I can suggest is to have that routine where you're very strict with yourself, and so you treat it like a 9 to 5 or an 8:30 to 4:30 or whatever it might be. And what doesn't get done that day doesn't get done. And I think if you are there with with your husband working from home, or your partner, whoever it might be, is that to have that kind of pact between you. We've started now having a proper lunch break. I've got my son back from uni as well, so we'll say, right, okay, we're going to lunch at this time, and then I'm going to finish at this time. And also let your work colleagues know you're doing that as well, and so kind of have that agreement between you is what I could say there. Really got to switch things off. Someone's put here, they close their door, office space. Yeah, if you've got a separate space you can work in, that's perfect. Depends on your environment. That's great. Thank you. And one thing I've done as well, I'll just share this with you. Just bear with one moment. So I don't know whether you can see this. So this is my little note. So so when I'm on a webinar or something, I put it outside the door so everyone knows. So I don't get them walking in behind the video or banging doors or whatever it might be. Okay, so I'm conscious of time. So if any final questions, or I'll hand over to you, Mark, just to wrap up.
Yeah, well, I mean, just one last thank you for that, and that was absolutely brilliant. And I've
Thank
taken
you.
a lot away from that. Certainly, I think the big one for me is just asking myself those questions. I think it is going to be tough for everyone over the last couple of weeks, and actually just taking a couple of breathers and asking yourself maybe some quite difficult conversations and that sort of stuff. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I think we are going to wrap that up. Absolutely bang on time, which is fantastic. So thank you to everyone that's listened and visited in, and we'll wrap that up. And all our future events are on our website, so sign up to and you'll get an email for the links. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes. And thank you for everyone and their contributions. It's been great. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.